start by drawing a square. Again, hold down the Shift key. That makes a perfect square. Then we will go to Edit, Copy, and Edit, Paste in Front. So that creates a duplicate right on top of the old one. Select the Direct Selection tool. Click on empty space to first deselect the shape, and then hover over the left edge of the square, and then click and drag over to the right and up slightly, and then we will select that left edge on the bottom square and click and drag that to kind of try to match what I have over here. Next, we will go to the regular selection tool and click on the that right shape, and go to Edit, Copy, Paste in Front. Go to the Direct Selection tool again and click on empty space to deselect. And now we're going to hover over the bottom edge of that shape and click and drag that over to this area. But don't try to match it up to the other edge just yet. Leave a little bit of space there because we're going to use a different technique to make sure that this edge aligns with that edge perfectly. So for that, we will need to select these 2 points individually. You could do that by either clicking and dragging the marquee around those 2 points, or you can just click on one of those points and hold down the Shift key and click on the other point. Once you do that, make sure that in the view you have Snap to Point checked, and then just hover over this point here and click and drag it to that corner, and it will actually snap into place. And you'll see that the black cursor will turn white when it snaps. See, it turns white. And when it turns white, you let go of the mouse button, and then you will have all of these edges perfectly aligned. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a gradient. Make sure all 3 shapes are selected. First, we're going to click on the stroke and select none, and then click on the fill and select gradient. When you click on the gradient dialog box comes up, and in here you have the gradient bar, and under there you have gradient sliders. So these are going to be the colors that you choose, and you could slide those around. So if you click on this one, which is white, and in the color, you will see that it shows you the color of that slider. So if I click on black, that changes to black in the color menu. We want to change those colors. So we'll start with this one. If you do not see color here, that's sometimes because this setting is on grayscale. So you just go in here and change it to CMYK. You might as well do this one as well. Click on that and change that to CMYK. All right, so we'll go back here and we'll change that to kind of a light blue color. And then we'll go here and change it to a dark blue. I have kind of like a tealish looking color there, so it's got some yellow in it and a little bit less magenta, a little bit more yellow. You can have as many of these sliders as you want. I'm actually going to create one more. The way you create new sliders is you just click underneath this bar. So if I want to create one, I'll just click there. That creates a new slider, and I could change the color of that as well. You could have as many of these as you want, so you could just keep clicking and, you know, changing and making any kind of color that you wish. So you could have all kinds of crazy looking gradients. And if you wanted to delete one of these gradient sliders, you just click and drag it down like this, and that will delete the sliders. So I'm going to adjust this gradient a little more. I'm going to make this dark one a little darker by adding some black to it, and I'm going to make this light one slightly more teal by adding a little bit of yellow to it. Try to match this as closely as possible. Okay, but make sure you have a pretty high contrast between the light and the dark, because we're going to be using the same gradient to do both the top side, which is very light, and also this right side, which is very dark, and the left side, which is in the middle. The key to getting a good grade on this is to try to match this as closely as possible. So I want to see that the top side is going from light to medium, and the dark side is going from a medium to dark, and this left side is a medium light to a medium dark, all using this one gradient. So once you have your gradient set up and all three sides are painted with the same gradient, and you could tell because when you have all three of these shapes sides selected, that gradient will show up over here in the fill box. If one of them is different, like I'm just going to modify it slightly, then if I select all three of them, you will get a question mark over here in the fill. That means they're not all painted with the same gradient. So to make sure that they're all painted with the same gradient, use the eyedropper and just click on one of them, then all three will be painted with the same gradient. So I'll be looking for that. So the final step in this would be to use the gradient tool over here to change the angle and the duration of the gradient on each one of these sides. So we'll start with the top, and you want to select it first with the selection tool. So click on it and then get the gradient tool, and you will see the gradient annotator, this is called, that will come up. So you could either move that around by rotating it, or making it longer or shorter, okay? Or you can just click and drag to create a new one. So each time you click and drag, you will create a new gradient annotator. Since our gradient goes from light to medium to dark, and we want this to go from light to medium, so we'll start over here with the light, and we keep dragging until you kind of get the right effect that you want. The dark is all the way over here, so it's off the shape. The medium is over here, so that's where the medium color is going to be. So that looks good. And then we'll go and select this side, and we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to start from the light all the way back here, and then end with the dark over here. So the next one we're going to do is this one, and that's kind of going to be from like a medium light to a medium dark. So we're going to start outside the shape and end outside the shape, so that the medium color is somewhere in the middle here. And again, we could move that around if we need to.